All right, good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for this special presentation of Preserving Pacuare, a Journey to Pacuare Reserve. I'm sorry, it's Preserving Paradise, but it's also Pacuare. My name is Jennifer. I am the Conservation Sustainability Manager here at Moody Gardens. And you may not know, but one of the foundations of the Moody Gardens mission is conservation. Through in-kind and monetary donations, we support local, national, and international conservation initiatives. Our conservation fund is actually supported by the sales of our animal artwork, our behind-the-scenes animal encounters. We also have our auction tables that you might have seen around property in the aquarium, in the visitor center, and in the hotel lobby, and then also through donations. So if you're interested in learning more about the conservation work that we participate in and support, please visit us online. You can also make donations online if you're interested in supporting that work. So one of our newest conservation partners that we are really excited to be partnering with is Pacuare Reserve, and that's the reason that we're here tonight, is because we want to introduce this project to you all as well. We're excited to be joined by Lola, who is a wildlife monitoring technician at Pacuare. And she focuses on population studies for felines, large mammals, primates, and the beautiful Agami Heron. So after her presentation, we will stick around if you have any questions, but otherwise, please help me welcome Lola.
Hello.
Are you using this?
I have this, I think. Welcome, everybody. Today, I invite you to a special event. I invite you to embark on a journey to Pacuare Reserve, which is a natural reserve in Costa Rica. So first of all, let's see. I invite you to close your eyes and imagine a place once covered by palm plantations and cattle pastures, where poaching and egg harvesting threaten sea turtles and other wildlife. Now open your eyes. Okay, may I introduce myself? So my name is Lola. I'm the wildlife biologist in Pacuare Reserve. And I basically studied biology in France, where I was born, so I'm French. And then I wanted to start my career in Costa Rica. And why Costa Rica? Because I don't know if you've heard of Costa Rica, but it's basically one of the greatest countries to do conservation. There's so many species. And this is why there's so many biologists that actually goes into Costa Rica to work with biology and wildlife in general. So this is why I wanted to start my career over there. And I've been working now in Costa Rica for 2 years. Since I was little, I always loved being around nature. I always loved seeing animals, observing them. I was always into that, so that's why I started, and I wanted to pursue my career into wildlife in general. So now I've been working in Pacuare for more than a year, basically being in charge of the project that we have with the Agami Heron, the monitoring of felines, but also the monitoring of primates. So this is what I'm going to be explaining you a little bit tonight, to tell you a bit more about what is Pacuare, what are we doing there. Hopefully you will learn a lot. So now, where Pacuare Reserve is situated, it's located in, well, Costa Rica, as I mentioned, and it's going to be if we look a little bit closer, it's gonna be on the Caribbean coast. So I don't know if you've ever been to Costa Rica or you're familiar to this country, but there is on one side the Pacific coast and then on the other side the Caribbean Sea. And our project is actually just on the beach. So we have in front of us just the beach. So to talk about the reserve, we have about 1,700 acres, of which 88% is wetland. In this reserve, we have so many animals and so many wildlife in general. We have about 2,500 species, and among them we can find 71 mammal species and 312 bird species. So now, I don't know if you see on this, I don't know if you see my clicker, let's see. Here, this is the South Station, and if you go 6 kilometers up north, you're gonna arrive to the North Station. So that means that we have actually 6 kilometers of beach, where our turtles obviously come and nest. And having the South Station on the south and the North Station is basically putting the limits of our reserve. Now, to talk a bit more about the story of Pacuare, everything started in 1989 when an Englishman whose name was John Denham, he founded this reserve and he basically bought what was 7 cattle farms with the name of referencing the area. So back then there was not a lot of forest, there was not like a unit forest, so he wanted to reference this area. And he also saw that there was a lot of turtles coming nesting into the beach, and at this moment, unfortunately, there was a lot of people robbing the eggs for human consumption. So it might sound weird from our point of view, but it's very cultural over there, and they feed dogs on eggs, for instance, of turtles. Even themselves, they can feed on like eggs of turtles. So that's why in 1991 he started establishing the first sea turtle monitoring program, basically focusing on taking care that no one takes the eggs. And then this was basically the foundation of our work in conservation. And in the following year, in 2004, we also implemented another project with Agami Heron after discovering that there was a laguna that was used for this species to nest. And so this discovery basically implemented this new Agami Heron monitoring program. And then followed in later years, we also started a project with felines and primates. Now, in 2000, also, we had Ecology Project International, which is, the diminutive is going to be EPI. EPI was created in the year 2000, and they started basically wanting to take some local communities around the Caribbean side into our reserve. So the aim was to give them better knowledge about the ecosystem which they depend on. So they decided to bring all these people into the reserve to give them more education talks, basically. And then after what was 16 years of partnerships, John Denham, the owner, decided to let the administration to EPI. So now EPI and Pacuare Reserve works together. Now EPI has different projects. It's not only in Costa Rica, but it's also in Belize, it has some in Mexico, in Yellowstone, also in the United States. So there is different projects now that are, it's more than Costa Rica. Ecology Project International is more. Now, in Pacuare Reserve and through EPI, we promote bioliteracy and youth empowerment. By having so many students coming in the reserve, we basically try to give them scientific abilities, such as, for instance, collecting data, making hypotheses, and doing a research project. So this is what we're going to give them. We're also very engaged into the community. Obviously, by working with these students that are local, we're giving them information, but we're also having a lot of our staff members that are from the communities around. Obviously, we're doing conservation and research, but we also have ecotourism. So in Pacuare Reserve, we have an eco-lodge, and people can come and spend like 2 or 3 days in the reserve and learn more about this ecosystem. So now, why is it so important to work with research? Why is it so important to do conservation? Well, basically, what you see, the numbers that you can see are the ones that are coming from the IUCN. These are the percentage of species that are threatened. So if we're looking at turtles, there is 80% of species of turtles that are threatened. And then we go with felines, 50%, birds, 12%, and 60% for primates. Basically, all of them are threatened because of deforestation, pollution, poaching, and climate change. So the work we're doing in Pacuare Reserve, but also works that are done by different research projects is helping to save, hopefully, these species from being basically extinct. So, I'm going to start talking about our first monitoring program, which is focused with turtles, sea turtles. And we can find the leatherback turtles, which is the image that you can see. I don't know if you would have pictured this when I was talking about sea turtles, but this is one of the turtles that we have. And it's very different from the other ones because it doesn't have this hard shell, so it's actually soft shell. This is why it's called leatherback. And this is actually the biggest in the world. So there are 7 species in the world, and this is the biggest that exists. It's about 6 feet long. I think there is a record of like one being from 12 feet long. So they're very, very big. And they can be more than 1,000 pounds, and they can go 3,000 feet deep. So they're very big mammals, basically. Well, big reptiles. So what are we doing in Pacuare is very important for leatherbacks because we are actually hosting 45% of the population that comes nesting in Costa Rica. So that makes actually Pacuare Reserve one of the most, if not the most important nesting beach for this species. Now what is the program consisting? It's basically working at night because adult females come and nest at night and they're gonna lay eggs, and our aim is to collect the eggs and to take them back to a hatchery. And there we're going to follow from the moment that the eggs are laid to the moment that we release them safely into the sea. Since we started this project, so this started in 1991, we have been able to save 1.9 million sea turtle eggs. This is for leatherback, but it also is for the sea turtle eggs of the green and hawksbill species, which are the 2 other species that we have in very low population. It's not like as big as the leatherback. So then, it's been a couple of years now that we've been focusing on trying to follow the elusive population of these 3 species. So in Costa Rica, we can find 6 different species of felines. And in our reserve, we have the chance to have 3 of them. So we would have jaguar, the puma, and the ocelots. Most of them have in common with the United States. Now, unfortunately, in Costa Rica, there's a lot of problem of them losing their habitat. Obviously, they need a lot of hectares, a lot of acres. So they would need so much that basically most of the time we're fragmenting what they need. We were fragmenting its habitat. So there's a lot of jaguars that are crossing roads, accidents, obviously, this is the first reason. And we're basically reducing their chance to feed and mate, obviously. Now, we started to interest ourselves following these species when we worked with Pantera and Coastal Jaguar Conservation. These are 2 NGOs that are, well, Pantera is very, very known in global, and Coastal Jaguar Conservation is an NGO from the Costa Rica just. And they came in 2018 with a dog that was a trained dog. His name was Tigre. I think you can guess why. He basically knew how to recognize different tracks of the different felines. So thanks to Tigre, we had actually been able to know where was the hot spots of the feline passage. And this way, Pantera could be putting what we called camera trap station, so basically installing station in some very specific points. And they've been able to see what we have in our forest. So that was the very beginning of our project, and then since 2021, we are working totally independently from these 2 NGOs, and we're installing camera traps. So this is what a camera trap looks like. I didn't show, but I lost my. Yeah. This is what a camera trap looks like, and it's basically going to be triggered by movement. So that means every time there's movement in front of this camera, it's going to take a video. So now we're using actually some of the hotspots that was detected by Tigre, but also some other ones that are new areas that we discovered, and we did like new trails, so we're adding some obviously other spots to put our camera traps. Now, these are 2 images that we can find on our videos. And what are we going to be looking at if we have a feline passing by through the video? I don't know if you can see, if you can try and pay attention and trying to see any differences. Basically, from one video to another, you can see that there is a lot of differences in between individuals. And now, if I focus on putting pause on the video, I would be able to differentiate one individual from the other just by the different patterns that they have. So we have, for instance, the right part is a female that's called Nala. Nala has been coming through our camera trap since 2019, and she's been coming like since 2019, maybe like twice a year. through the cameras. And then on the left side, you have Aska, which is another female. And also, Aska has been coming since 2019. So these two females are actually the most important individuals of Pacuare. And they've been coming and going most of these years and basically letting us know that they're staying and using Pacuare Reserve as a good and important place for them to feed and mate. So now I have a little quiz time. I hope you can participate. There's going to be a video playing. I'm going to let you see, and then we can go on with a little question. So this is what we call a scent station. So basically what we're going to be doing is installing a stick, and on this stick we're going to put a cloth that is going to be full of scent. Now I have a question for you. What do you think the scent is? You have three options: meat smell, blood, or perfume. Who would think by raising their hand that it would be meat smell? Okay. Okay. Blood? And perfume? So it's pretty given. Okay. Okay, let's see. I know. I have the same reaction, like, is it a joke? So they love channel number 5. And you might wonder why? Why would it be the most expensive one? They did a study in the United States. I don't know, I don't remember when. I think it was maybe in 2014, something like this. They tried different interaction of different perfumes with different jaguars individuals. And they had like a huge amount of reactions with channel number 5. In comparison, they tried, for instance, of Obsession from Calvin Klein, which has also some reaction, but a little less. Very fancy also, right? So basically, right now, there is a lot of projects that are using channel number 5 to actually attract them. So we're using it, and it's been basically having these type of like reaction that they're going to be smelling. And in captivity, because this study was done in captivity, they were actually rubbing themselves, like going crazy. I don't have this reaction, I'm still looking for it. I'm going to try and do something else, but I want this reaction also. So by installing camera traps, obviously it's giving us information about felines, but it's also giving everything that is going to go through cameras. It's going to be, it's going to be giving us information about what is the importance of each species, etc. So for instance, these are 4 species that we can find on our camera traps. Great curassow would be a big bird that is mostly walking on the path. And then we have common opossum, they're more nocturnal. Capuchin monkey, which are more into the trees. Collared peccary, that are, well, I don't have too much information about collared peccary. So now, what do you think, what would you be guessing would be the most frequent to see on camera trap? Who thinks it would be the great curassow? Okay. The common opossum? Okay. Capuchin monkey? And collared peccary? Okay, very even still. Okay. So in this case, this is the results that we have been having. As you can see, great curassow is taking a lot of my batteries on my camera traps. Almost half of the videos that I have are great curassow, and I have 2,000 videos. So there are a lot. And basically this graph shows you all the different types of animals that we can find in the reserve. So we have common opossums, we have armadillos, capuchin monkeys, pacas, squirrel, jaguars, a lot of carnivores, collared peccary, and red-brocked deer. So by knowing that, it's also very important for us to understand if one species is increasing, another one is decreasing, etc. Because at the end, jaguar, as being an apex predator, that means that it's going to be on the top of the chain of the alimentary chain. It's going to be regulating all of these animals. So this is very important also to know that we're focusing on jaguars, but we're also focusing on what do they feed on. Right now on camera, I didn't have any recording of jaguar feeding on something else. So it would be very interesting to see the behavior they have of chasing, which I didn't have the opportunity to see. But at least by these results, we can more or less follow what would be the creature that they could eat. So then, going through monkey population monitoring program, this is the most recent, so we started very recently this project with monkeys. I've been spending my entire time in Pacuare looking for them like crazy, so I'm more used to being close from monkeys than from human actually. But this is the three species that we have in Pacuare. We have the howler monkey that is on the left, white-faced capuchin monkey on the middle, and spider monkey. So now, these three species of monkeys have been very important into our forests. I don't know if you remember that I said that before it was cattle farms, and so now we can find actually a very nice and I don't know how you can say this, forests. And basically these three species have been helping a lot with the reforestation process. By feeding on a lot of seeds, different fruits, pollinizing a lot, they've been helping. So they're very, very important for a healthy forest. Now, with our monkey population monitoring program, we're focusing on trying to identify behavioral patterns of each species, so trying to understand how every species works, and if they have different patterns, if they're trying to forage more, sleep more, whatever. And we're also trying to focus on estimating the population size in our reserve by doing land transect sampling and also recognition of troops. So I don't know if you're familiar with the troop. What is a troop? It's basically a family of monkeys that are all going to stay together. Now, unfortunately, with these three species, they're all of them endangered, and most of the reason, at least for Costa Rica, is due to pet trade. It still happens that people want them to have them as pets in their house, and unfortunately, if someone has them as pet, it would be impossible for us to release it. It's too much, like, if it doesn't have the natural process of a mother learning him on what to forage, etc., it would be very hard. So it's almost impossible to release animals that come from pet trade. So this is one, and then electrocution also is a very big problem in Costa Rica. It's going to be the same for felines that it is for primates. We're going to be fragmenting the habitats, putting a road, and then obviously monkey, if they want to go from the left side of the road to the right side, or they're going to go down, and we have a lot of accidents of cars, or they're going to go and take the electric cables. So that's also basically resulting in a lot of electrocution. We have a lot of animals, monkeys that are arriving to rescue centers because they've been electrocuted, and most of them lose a limb at the end and they can't be released anyway. So now, let me introduce you to Pacuare Reserve most abundant primate species. This is the white-faced capuchin monkey. We have been able to identify 8 troops of white-faced capuchin monkeys, so it's a very good amount, let's say. Most of the time when I was seeing them and looking at them, they were spending time foraging, so 60% more or less of the time that I saw them, they were foraging. And why is that? It's because most of the time they're trying to feed on insects. It's a big part of their diet, and it's way more costly than just to feed on fruits, because fruit don't move and insects move very, very fast. So it's hard, and they spend a lot of time looking for it. So they're going to be eating insects, they're going to be eating leaves, fruits, but they can also eat mammals, reptiles also, eggs of birds. They eat a lot of things. We even saw one report of a white-faced capuchin monkey feeding on a baby howler monkey. So they can go even from very close family, right? Now these ones, they're very, very, very smart. So this is also a problem in Costa Rica, is that they're so smart that they had learned how to open bags from people and take whatever they have, so biscuits or whatever. There's also like reports that said that they were using cream, so like, how do you say this, for like the sun? They would feed on it. Like, they're trying everything, basically. And these ones, even though they look very smart, they look very pretty, they look very cute, they're very aggressive. And most of the time I see them, they're fighting. And I don't know if you know about these capuchin monkeys, but there is a hierarchy that is very important. So there's going to be an alpha male, and then there's going to be subordinates. If the alpha male thinks that he doesn't have control, he could just expose one of the troop, or he could just basically eat his, like, I don't know how you say this, like the tail. He could bite the tail. So they're very aggressive. So this is in between the troops, but it's also like in the same troop. Now, spider monkey is the second most abundant in our reserve. I have found 5 troops of spider monkey. These ones are super big. They're very, very tall. They have very large forearms. They have arms that are very long, and they're using the tail to travel. So these ones are the only species that are swinging from branch to branch. So they have this tail that is helping them to swing. That's also why they lose the thumb. They don't have thumbs, and they would go from branch to branch like this without using any thumbs. Whereas the other primates, they're going to be more four-handed. Now, the troops are very, very big. They can be 20 to 30 individuals. And for this reason, to not compete too much on the food, they would spread around, so they would separate each other in the day and just come back together at dusk and dawn. And every time small groups come together, so they would meet at some point of the day, they would make frequent hugs to just recognize each other and to reduce stress. So you could see them like hugging for a little time, and this is also to reassure the links between each other. So it's very cute to see. These ones are only frugivorous, they eat only on fruits. I feel like there's saying that they can eat also some leaves and stuff like this, but I only see them eating on fruits. And this is why it's basically, this spider monkey needs a lot of habitat. It needs a lot of range of habitat because it's only eating on fruits. When the other primate species, they feed on a lot of different stuff, these ones only fruits. So this is why it's also one of the most endangered species of primates. It's because of this diet so specific, they need so much hectares, that if we're deforesting their habitats, then it's very hard for them to adapt. And this is the howler monkey. I don't know if you ever saw a howler monkey, but they're very cute and at the same time very creepy. They have what we call a developed hyoid bone, which gives them the ability to do this sound. So it can be creepy in this way, right? These ones will do this noise when it's dusk and dawn also, and when there's predators, when there's danger. There is multiple ways that they can use this vocalization. We have 9 troops in our reserve, and most of the time I was seeing them, they were resting. They spend a lot of time resting, and this is because they're only feeding on leaves, or like mostly leaves. They eat also fruits. And having so much fiber is very like slow. Everything is going to be slow. It's like sloths. It's going to be very slow, and they're going to take like a lot of time to take naps. Okay, so now this is going to be the last part that I'm going to be talking about, the Agami Heron and the monitoring program that we have. So I'm going to let you see a little video, and then I'm going to be explaining some things. So this is the Agami Heron, very pretty. The specificity, like physical description of an Agami Heron would be that it's a medium-sized heron. They would have very small legs in comparison to body size, and they would have a long beak and neck, which makes very specific of them feeding on actually the shore. So they wouldn't go too much deep inside because they're very short in legs. So they're gonna feed in like from the shore, and they're going to feed on like small invertebrates. They're going to feed on a lot of different types of fishes, lizards also. These ones, when they're in mating season, they become so colorful. Most of the birds, I think it's the same. And when it's mating season, these ones become super blue, an intense red. They have this part that this part that is just underneath the eye that is going to start becoming red. Most of the time, when it's not in mating season, it's going to be yellow. So it's going to start and get red when it's on mating season. And then these feathers that you can see, so these are feathers that are going to be starting to grow when mating season starts. So now, Agami herons are actually very hard to see if they're not in mating season. They're solitary animals. That means that you can see one around there, one another place, but it's very hard to see. They're very shy, and they're very sensitive to us humans. But now when they gather into big colonies. And for instance, in our case, we have 140 individuals as a mean. And if you go into the different sites of like reproduction sites, there would be, for instance, in Fresh Guyana, you could find thousands of them. So imagine having thousands of birds like this. It would be insane. Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, also Venezuela and Mexico has different reproduction sites. And in our case, we have one that is inside the Pacuare Reserve. So this is the nesting site that we have in Pacuare Reserve. So it's literally in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of the forest, and then in the forest there's like this laguna. So all that you can see all around here is actually water. That is basically we have like a plant that is covering it, but it's water. And so then there's this island, and they're gonna be nesting just here. So above water, it's always gonna be above water, and the nests are gonna be super easy nests, like very few branches above water. So they're not very scared. And our monitoring program consists in visiting the nesting site 3 times per week and trying to count how many adults we can see, nests, eggs, and chicks. We try to be super careful when we visit the Agami Heron because they're very sensitive, as I said. So that means that we're not going to be entering the nesting site with like 10 people. It's always going to be 3 people, and it's always going to be with the research assistant. So it's always going to be around someone that actually knows what is the protocol. As results, we have been identifying 130 adults of Agami Heron for last year. And we have seen that we had 2 eggs per nest as an average, and 49 observed chick. So this is the chicks. And they grow super fast. And there's going to be always 2. And this is basically to show you the results that we have been having since 20 years. So we started in 2004, more than 21 years now. Basically what shows this graph is that it's hard to give a tendance. It's hard to see if it's increasing, it's hard to see if it's decreasing. The idea would be to follow it through the further years to be able to see if there is like super big increase or not. Right now what I would see and say it's actually kind of stable, apart from some of the years that are very low, but it could be because of monitoring also, that change from one year to another, because we have a lot of stuff that just stays for 1 year, so it could be that. But then we have a lot of like our moments that we had 145, 140, so we can say more than 100 per year, for sure. Now, obviously, none of this would be possible without sponsors and partnerships. We have a commitment with Moody Gardens to conserve species, endangered species, and this is a very important part for us to be working with Moody Gardens, is actually helping us a lot to take data, obviously, and to follow these conservation actions in long terms. So through Moody Gardens support, we have been able to basically construct the hatchery, so to take care of all the babies and eggs that we have of the 3 different turtle species. We also are able to acquire more research equipment for Agami Herons, but also other projects. We are now into the construction and the design of an Agami Heron observation blind, which will allow us to observe more safely the Agami Heron and to disturb them less. And it also helps to fund research staff. So now, you can also be part of this conservation journey. There is multiple ways of doing it, and if you want, you can come and visit us in Pacuare and see what was all this about. You can also donate and to support our conservation and research programs. But if so, you can also, just from home, help us actually with collecting data. So we're using a platform that is called Zooniverse. I don't know if you've ever heard about it. There's multiple work on there, but we're having using this platform to put all our videos of camera traps. And so basically from home, you can actually help to identify species of what we see through camera traps. So you could definitely do that from your house, if you're interested. Now, special thank yous for coming. It was a pleasure for me to talk about this, which for me is my passion, so I'm very glad to be able to talk about my passion just like this. So I hope you like it, I hope you learn things, and hopefully I will see you. If you have any questions, you can ask me, but I will see you around here, or maybe in Pacuare. That would be insane. You're very welcome to come. So yeah, thank you so much for listening.